Hi everybody, welcome to this week's Hive Talk. Hayley kind of noticed the other day that actually it's about 12 months on since the world flipped on its head and we have been going through a global pandemic. So we thought it'd be a good chance to reflect, maybe think about some of the predictions we made, some which were good, some which were not so good, and kind of give a bit of a status report as to where we are. We kind of feel more confident that we understand what's going on in the industry now. We know what's happening with practice valuations. We know what's happening with the market opportunity and consumer. And we kind of have somewhat of a hold of consumer demand. Obviously, that'll change slightly over time. So yeah, Hayley, do you want to kind of give us an idea of what the last 12 months has looked like?
Yeah, so started, I guess, this time last year when we all got the news that we were going into lockdown, all dental practices were shut. So from Hive's perspective, it was kind of moving the whole team to working remotely, and then just the instant switch to trying to kind of get on the phone to clients to relay. We were kind of bombarded with all this information. Government support was kind of introduced kind of fast and thick, as well as kind of the regulations. So we were constantly trying to interpret that information, see how it was affecting different clients, and just trying to reassure them, really. So we went straight into, obviously cash flow was the initial concern for most of our clients. So we went straight into forecasting, basically. So we implemented, which I know you were involved in, Dan, as well. It was the strategy of stabilize, protect, and regenerate. So the kind of first thing was taking a look at the financials of our clients and basically seeing how we could protect their business, given that the revenue stream was, well, definitely in private practices, reduced to nil straight away. So kind of looking at their cost base, switching off as much as we possibly could, and just trying to protect their cash flow, really.
In many cases, it was switching off my fee, switching off the marketing fees, just obviously wisely to protect any cash in the organisations. It was, yeah, that was definitely a scary time looking back, and obviously the whole time's had a load of uncertainty. What happened when we came out that first lockdown and we reopened? I remember every conversation was about PPE, and we're kind of like, it's probably not the biggest deal in the world. We kind of, it's mainly about what the consumer demand is and how people, what type of dentistry people are purchasing. So what did you see when we came back out of it?
Yeah, a lot of conversations about PPE, but just we didn't know how to forecast income. So kind of in my accountancy world, I'm used to doing forecasts. You've got some kind of givens which you kind of hang your figures off. It was a case of, let's do your cost base for the 3 months we know we're going to be shut, minimize that, and then it was literally a finger in the air of what income was going to be. So what actually tended to happen, though, certainly with a lot of the clients we worked with, was the income that happened as soon as they opened their doors was much higher than anyone kind of anticipated. There was pent-up demand there, and kind of increased demand from NHS patients as well, which hadn't been able to get any care for 3 months, like no one could, but now still couldn't get any care. So those private clients that were kind of set up and prepped for it had this new kind of patient base that were walking through their doors.
Yeah, I remember it was, there was a lot of people kind of saying, right, we're just going to open a couple of days, see how it is, and kind of ease through it. And we were like, our kind of line was absolutely not, basically. You know, you've got to get back to business as soon as possible and figure out how to operate given all the new regulations. And it was safe to say that, so, you know, a lot of people got back to business quick. And it wasn't just the NHS that wasn't providing, there wasn't a provision for dentistry. There was definitely a section of the private market that didn't really know what to do. And I get it, because it's really difficult. They were focused on kind of servicing their business in one way for probably the past 20 years. And then you kind of, it's not little tweaks, it's kind of just completely radical change overnight. They didn't know how to adapt. So actually the split in the market is more pronounced than ever. So it's all the kind of best practices that we're aware of have actually benefited quite significantly, but only because it was pretty straightforward for them to go, right, okay, we need to communicate with the team, 7 days opening, kind of really long days, 2 split shifts. We're doing online consults. We need to speak to the associates. We need to get Hive to speak to the associates so their financial position's secure as well. So all of these things that they could do because they'd already been operating that way really allowed them to kind of get the lion's share of this huge pent up demand. So yeah, it was interesting actually. It was. I did say to my clients that did well in it, it wasn't, you still had to be good at doing business. It wasn't a given for every dental practice that, you know, there was more kind of patients coming in. It was incredibly hard work to achieve it, I'd say.
Yeah, and a lot of work during that lockdown period as well. So a lot of, like you said, online consults. So they were still working doing that, but also turning more attention than they ever have to the business model.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually understood what the cost base was, what they needed to just get through the door, kind of what their steady income was as well. So a lot of practices had plan income. So we kind of managed to reduce their cost base during lockdown so that the plan income serviced that. And then they knew kind of as soon as they opened the door, kind of gradually kind of taking advantage of the furlough still and kind of bringing the staff back slowly and balancing the two things and really having visibility on a monthly basis of what was coming in the door and what was going out.
Yeah, it was a very interesting time for everyone. I'm just thinking back to how kind of crazy it was because we really didn't know what was going on. Yeah, you did a very good job of shepherding people through and keeping them calm through the whole process. And the one thing that came out of it, which, you know, we have to be grateful for, no one ever wanted to speak about profit before, except for the kind of 6 months before they sold. Because obviously practices are valued off profit and EBITDA multiples. So that was the only time we could ever get our hooks in any interest in saying, right, does the business actually make any money? And people say, yeah, it makes money. I draw 10 grand a month. It's great. And we're going, no, but if we paid you as a dentist, does it make money? And they go, well, why does it matter? Now everyone was suddenly very interested in profitability because actually the business had to be focused on it to survive and compete now. Because if, let's say the average practice we kind of saw was maybe only 3% truly profitable, if you tweak the cost base at all, you don't have to be an accountant to figure out what happens. So I'd say, do you experience that across the clients now that there's a greater interest in the finances and actually kind of running a tighter financial ship?
Yeah, definitely. Certainly in the first lockdown, was doing forecasts for a lot of clients, some of which I would only ever kind of speak to on an annual basis, but they, well, quite rightly were engaged at that point in time and still are because we're not out of it yet. So we had that definite lockdown, like, thank God that dental practices have been allowed to continue to stay open in the kind of subsequent lockdowns, but it's still disrupted and there still has been we kind of saw with our client base that income kind of August, September, October, November really high, and then the second kind of lockdown started hitting and some patients kind of started cancelling the Christmas. That's kind of revenue drops over that period anyway. So I still think it's not kind of back to clients kind of not really caring what comes in the door. They're still very much wanting to know what last month's turnover was, what was that compared to the previous month, what's the book looking like the next couple of months. So yeah, it's good. Yeah,
I think there's a couple of other bits we specifically wanted to talk about. So it's not just the principles that seem to have got more sophisticated during this phase, but actually we've been working with a number of associates who have kind of approached us before even finding a practice, just to kind of say, we've heard about Hive, what do you do? Can you help associates? And yeah, we can help associates. So we've worked with, there's 3 projects, which some have just acquired and another couple are in the final stages. And they had taken a very kind of grown up approach to actually work with us to find the right practice, to figure out what the strategy would be for that practice, to rebrand the practice, and then to actually build a few different financial forecasts. So that's a big change in my world, and it might be basically because till we met Johnny Cochran. We didn't realise that associates would want to kind of think that way and kind of do all the planning at first. But it's a real positive for me that there's clearly this group of associates who are kind of saying we need to get interested in the business to be able to compete in this new dental marketplace. Have you seen that on the accountancy side as well, that there's a higher level of engagement?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's the time, the point in the journey that they're making contact with us. So it kind of used to be that you'd speak to someone and it was, I put an offer in a practice, I'm just trying to get my finance in line, the bank wants a forecast. So they kind of come to us because they needed a forecast at that point, but definitely that shifted now. So I'm having conversations with associates to kind of, I need someone to do my tax return, but that's not why I've got in touch. I'm thinking about buying in the next couple of years. I need some help because I don't really know necessarily if the practice I'm working at the moment and I'm thinking I want to buy, is that right for me? And they have that awareness that they won't necessarily get in their pocket what the current principal is getting. They are going to have a massive loan and they're going to have to repay that each month. So it will probably mean that they're not really able to draw anything for the first year. So they're going into it with the foresight that they are going to have to do something different. And they're kind of coming up to us for help to say, what do I need to do differently? And what will that result in? What changes in the finance will come about from that?
Yeah, I think we've got better at communicating that as well, because obviously everyone that purchases has a forecast, and we kind of say, there's your forecast, and it means that you're not actually going to earn anything unless you grow it. They go, yeah, cool. Can I get the finance? And it's like, yeah, get the finance. And then we'd hear from them a year later saying, I'm not really earning very much. And we said, yeah, you'll only earn something if you grow the business. So I think hopefully it's reflective of us upping our game in that respect as well, and really improving our communication. One of the big fears, actually, for me in particular, with my client base, was what would happen to practice values, because obviously pretty much everything we did for the more sophisticated business was to increase that asset value as much as possible. So it's always, working on profitability, working on growth, in the mindset that if we kind of find £10, that might manifest itself as £100, a bit less on a sale price. So let's kind of work towards that. So what was going to happen? I think just before this time last year, the prices were reaching a real all-time high, which I'm not sure if we'll kind of reach again. But actually, if you go back a few months before that, that kind of 8 times multiple is happening as we speak now. We've managed to close on some really big deals over the past 2 weeks, basically. Since
3 or 4 complete in the last 2 weeks.
And and the multiples have been really good on those, and kind of multiples I've been happy with in a pre-corona environment. All of the businesses have been really good businesses, which is probably the first time I've heard that the corporate purchasers actually more interested in the operations and how sustainable the profit is and all of these things, because they're obviously their relationship with risk has changed as well, given everything that's changed. But it's actually still, if you've got a good business and it's still a great market, still, look at selling. My predictions about the NHS continue not to come true. I still don't really know why anyone would buy one, because I see it as quite a high level of uncertainty around what could happen there. It doesn't seem to be sustainable in its current form, but people are still buying them. So if you've got an NHS practice and kind of don't want to be around when the apple cart gets turned up, I think it might even be worth exploring a sale at the moment, just because people are still paying for it. The reason a lot of sales have actually gone through in the past few weeks is because of capital gains tax. Hayley, do you want to kind of elaborate a bit on that, and why we did that?
Yeah, so ever since kind of the economic crash, I guess, even before that, there were rumours that some tax incentives for the taxes when you sell an asset. So if you sell your business, there is a 10% tax rate that's been available. And we've kind of always suspected that that would be pulled at some point. The previous budget, you used to be able to sell a lot more assets and gain that 10%. That was kind of eaten away. So we kind of knew that it was on their radar. So we were expecting that to maybe be pulled. So that's why the sales that were already underway, we were kind of pushed to get in before the budget to make sure that we could secure that 10% tax rate for our clients. But as it turns out, they actually haven't done anything with capital gains tax, so that that's still there and still available for people. So whilst I kind of spoke to some clients who were on the brink of wanting to sell, and then kind of realizing that, yep, I definitely do want to sell, but a sale can take anything from 6 to 9 months. It's kind of not something you can push through in a couple of months. So they were kind of out of time for that, so kind of just hanging on. But I think we've got 30 that is still there. I think that might come to the forefront of some people looking to sell and kind of just kind of getting going with it. There's kind of no uncertainty at the moment. They know the tax rate they can get. Whether it will still be around in a couple of years, we don't know. But at the moment, it's still there.
Yeah, and we've got Ross mentioned that kind of November there might be another review on the capital gains thing. Is that right, or would they have mentioned that?
Yeah, and who knows? We used to have quite fixed timescales. If you'd had your budget, it was expected at certain times of the year. But obviously, with everything going on at the moment, it's just all a bit uncertain, I guess.
Yeah, it's probably one of the things we advise all of our clients is almost like every year you should almost think about selling your practice just to figure out what your field position is and give you the right context to what's available to you. Because what you don't want to do is kind of wait till you're ready to sell and kind of actually want to sell to find out the value, because you'll probably have a bad surprise and you'll probably have another 3-year period ahead of you before you can achieve what you want from that. So it's always worth having a chat with people about
it. And it's not all about tax. Obviously, that's a big consideration. If you're selling the biggest asset that you've got, you want to kind of retain as much as possible. But if you're looking to exit in kind of 3 years, you should be looking at what your exit value is now. So what can you do? Because if you're able to, like you said before, if you're able to improve your profit or your EBIT, bearing in mind that your practice is valued on a multiple of that, if you improve that by 50k, you end up kind of getting 5 times back on the sale price. And how that feeds into people's retirement strategy as well. I think someone might have a figure in their head of what they think the practice is worth and what they want to sell it for, which is sometimes more of a sentimental thing. But then when you actually kind of work that backwards and say, okay, after tax, that's going to give you X amount, you could do X, Y, and Z with that to give you this return in retirement, and it actually doesn't meet their needs, and they realise that it moves the goalposts for them. Yeah,
it's quite often the most exciting time is in the sale is getting that price, getting the offer, and then it's always not miserable from there, but it's really hard work, and you just see kind of chunks of money being taken off that top level figure. But there's no point hiding from that. That's the way it is. So
just the process.
The more aware you are earlier, the better you're going to be. So to bring us to a close, obviously a lot has changed in dentistry. We're really, really positive about the market. So definitely kind of think there's tons of potential. It's probably harder than before. It's definitely less stable, but kind of in that chaos, I suppose, is more opportunity. I wanted to ask Hayley, what stuff's kind of changed for you and the accountancy team this year? Obviously, I've grown a mullet, which is, I don't know how well it's being received, but so what's happening with you guys?
I think we're definitely getting more engagement from people. Accounts aren't really the most exciting thing in the world, but I think we've kind of been helping our clients a lot more this year. So helping with the cash flow things, helping them with tax strategy. People are now kind of more interested in what their tax strategy is, because whilst they have no control at the moment, less control over what the profit is, that's kind of at the disposal of, not really within the realms of what you can and can't do at the moment. But the one of the costs that you can improve is your tax position and your tax bill. So we're getting more people, when we're sending out our kind of pre-year end emails, like the tax year's coming to a close, let's see what we could do. People are kind of a lot more interested. So yeah, it's really good, positive.
So accountant's cool now? Is that the?
I won't go that far. No.
You're very cool. Well,
I think people realise there's different ways we can help. We're kind of not there just to do that that kind of paperwork for you at the year end. We've kind of help in a whole, and we want to kind of get involved in a lot more.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Hayley, and thank you guys for watching. Let us know if you have any questions from any of that, or want to explore a sale, or want to talk about anything in particular. We can help, and hopefully our email addresses are somewhere related to this video. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thanks.